All right, today we're diving into something really fascinating and honestly pretty dark. It's a piece of fictional literary history called The Heaven Stormer. Imagine an alternate 1826 Prussia. This story is considered the high point of a genre called technocratic romanticism. It takes the Faust legend we all know and completely flips it. This isn't a bargain for one man's soul, it's for the soul of the state itself.
You know the classic deal with the devil, right? Your soul in exchange for endless knowledge, or power, or pleasure. But this story asks a much stranger question. What if the ultimate prize wasn't any of those things? What if the bargain was for something colder? Something like perfect, soul-crushing administrative efficiency?
So, our story kicks off in this grim, Gothic industrial version of Berlin, and our Faust figure is a man named Henoch. But get this, he's not some old magician, he's an ethical scientist, a whole new kind of thinker for a brand new age of iron and steam. And his quest, well, it's born from a very specific, very modern kind of frustration.
And this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, you've got Goethe's classic Faust. All he wants is to find one single moment of pure, perfect happiness. Henoch, though, his goal is the complete opposite. He's after something the text calls administrative salvation. He isn't worried about his own soul. He's tormented by the biological fragility of the entire human race. He doesn't want to escape humanity, he wants to fix it, like a bug in the system.
Now here's the kicker. Henoch's pact, at least on the surface, seems almost heroic. He's trying to find the keys to the stars, the ultimate knowledge, so he can save humanity from a disaster. But that disaster isn't a flood from God or some asteroid. No, it's something way more sterile and terrifying. It's called a logical purge. You're going to want to keep that phrase in mind. It is absolutely chilling.
So where does a deal like that take you? Well, Henoch's journey isn't down into a fiery hell. It's an ascent. He travels from the microcosm of his little lab into the macrocosm of what's called the Iron Heaven. He's literally journeying into the gears of a celestial machine.
And the headquarters of this whole operation is the Crystal Chancery. This place is not a heaven of clouds and angels. It's a direct allegorical slap at the 19th century Prussian Ministry of State. The text calls it a bureaucracy of terror, a system where people stop being souls and start being data points that need to be managed.
This quote from the story just captures the vibe perfectly. The world is described with this incredible phrase, living fire and ice. I mean, doesn't that just perfectly describe the cold, binary efficiency of this new world? All the warmth of divine mercy has been totally replaced by the rigid, unfeeling logic of the High Chancery.
So, who's running this new, mechanical version of heaven? Not angels, that's for sure. It's giants. The story takes the biblical Nephilim and reimagines them as the power players of this new reality, calling them the aristocratic of iron.
These Nephilim are called state automata. They are the literal and metaphorical giants of industry and war. We're talking steam-powered machines that just crush the natural, pre-industrial world. And politically, they're a direct shot at the Prussian Junker class, the old landed aristocracy, being transformed into this mechanized military elite, completely stripped of empathy, of that divine spark.
Of course, you can't have a Faustian bargain without a tragic victim, right? That symbol of lost innocence. In The Heaven Stormer, the story's moral compass is a character named Sophia.
But her fate is so profoundly different from Gretchen in Goethe's play. Gretchen dies a tragic but very human death from social shame. Sophia's end is, well, it's way more modern. The text says she dies of epistemological collapse. What that means is her entire worldview, which represents the organic traditional world, is so completely shattered by the cold mathematical logic of this new industrial age that it doesn't just break her heart, it completely breaks her reality.
Okay, let's circle back to that terrifying phrase I mentioned, the logistical purge. The story takes the Great Flood from the Bible and just strips it of all moral meaning. In the cold calculus of the Iron Heaven, the flood isn't a punishment for sin. It is, and I'm quoting here, a necessary logistical purge, meant to correct a biological error. It's a horrifying look at how absolute power can reframe genocide as simple, passionless administration. It's just paperwork.
So all of this is building up to the story's really radical conclusion, the resolution of Henoch's deal with the devil. It's called the Metatronic synthesis.
And right here, this is the story's most radical idea.
Goethe's Faust, he's ultimately saved because he's restlessly, flawedly human, because he never stops striving. Enoch's salvation is the polar opposite. He isn't saved for his humanity. He's saved because he successfully gets rid of it and integrates perfectly into the system.
And this just lays out his tragic path so perfectly. He starts out with this noble goal: find the keys, save everyone. But to do that, he has to enter the system. Then he has to learn its logic. And what's the final step on that ladder? He becomes an immortal component of the very machine he wanted to control.
So, he gets what he wanted. He gets total knowledge. He gets immortality. But it is the ultimate empty victory. Because to truly know the machine, Enoch had to become just another cog inside it. He ends the story as an immortal clerk, endlessly recording the data of a dying world that he originally set out to save.
This slide really ties all these allegories together. You can see how the fallen angels, the Watchers, are turned into industrialists with dangerous new technology. Forbidden magic becomes advanced military tech. And finally, Metatron, the man who is elevated to an angel, becomes the perfect, emotionless bureaucrat. That's Enoch's final form, a symbol of what happens when you lose your soul by synchronizing completely with the system.
And so, the Heavenstormer leaves us with this question that feels like it could have been written yesterday, not in the 19th century. When we strive for perfect knowledge and total control of a system, whether that's a government or a social media platform or an entire economy, do we risk becoming just another component, just another part of a machine we no longer actually control? It's a pretty chilling thought to end on.